Welcome to Audio Path, where we take a real look at making a living in music.
Ever wonder what it's like to make a living in music outside of the big industry hubs? We're here to pull back the curtain with raw, unfiltered conversations about the ups, downs, and everything in between.
Join us, John Kimbrough,
And Trent Harrison,
as we share real-world insights, experiences, and stories from behind the scenes in the music industry. Whether you're an artist, audio nerd, or you just love music, we've got something for you.
this is Audio Path, where the hustle is real and the passion runs deep. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good.
Good.
Been a good week, so I'm excited to be here and talk to you about some home studio setups.
That's right. That's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
Home studio setups.
Home studio setup. So today we're going to talk about the basic home studio setup, how to physically set that up, which direction or path you are intending to take, or where do you want to end up, what are your goals, right? And working from those goals backwards, what you may need to achieve those goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've done home studio setup in my own home. I know you have too. I've done many home studio setups for other local musicians and just helping them with their recording setups. And so I've got a lot of different ideas of different ways to do it. And a lot of them are going to end up working the same, but there are some caveats depending on what you're going for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just get right into it. So what are your goals? Basically, that's something you need to be thinking about.
Yeah.
When it comes to home recording, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make some recordings to share with your bandmates? Basically, you're getting down some ideas. It could be pretty basic. It could be involved, depending on, who you are in the band and what your role is. Or are you just a solo musician? You're trying to record your own music and put it out for a public release, right? Different pathway. Could a lot of overlap on some of the gear, but different path. And then, or are you just a hobbyist and you're just kind of doing it for fun, and you've been playing music for, years or your whole life, but it's been always a hobby of yours and just something fun that you like to do, but you want to record it so you can listen to it, right? Yeah. In that same type of vein, there could just be a little some pre-production work. So let's say you're planning to go into a professional studio, but you've been tasked or you've been asked to see if you could do scratch tracks yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of like the 3 or 4 different pathways that I see of why someone would need a home studio set up. And I mean, in this day and age, I feel like almost every musician should have one.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
It doesn't have to cost a lot to get to a pretty good place. Right. So what do you think? Talk to me about what you think we should have as far as basic gear needs. John, what do you think?
Yeah, man. I think, and you've already kind of talked about a lot of this, I think having the why at the forefront of your mind when you're looking into doing something like this, making a home studio or getting a setup going, is really important, because there's so many different ways to do it. There's so many different options out there. I mean, there's so much gear that's designed specifically for this, and it's kind of a choose your own adventure. But that adventure is going to be kind of dictated by what you want to get out of it. And so, I think you're thinking down the right path.
Yeah.
Really. Just thinking about, okay, what kind of musician are you? What do you want to do? To your point earlier, I think it's really important that most modern day musicians have some kind of recording setup for 2 reasons. One of those reasons is that it makes you a better musician when you can record yourself and hear back what you're doing.
Yeah.
We all, as musicians, when we're sitting there and we're playing or singing or whatever your craft is, when we're doing that, we have this little, I call it an internal confirmation bias,
Okay.
where we kind of think we're doing it maybe a little better than we actually are, because it feels really good to make music.
Yeah.
And so, the best way to kind of counteract that is to actually record yourself, listen back to what you actually did. And over the course of time, I've found that when you do that, those get closer together.
Yeah.
You kind of wind up developing a more accurate representation of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I think is really important, and a reason that it's really important. The second one, it's because we live in a day and age where collaboration is king.
Yeah.
And the best way to collaborate with people who maybe don't even live near you or who do is to have a way to record yourself. Even if it's just to do a Zoom call with somebody, have a setup that allows you to hop on a call and be able to collaborate in real time.
Yeah.
And, a home studio setup is pretty much the answer to that.
Absolutely.
So I think that's also another side of it.
It is.
The goals.
That's a good point. You don't have to just do the recordings to share, with someone who's just listening or, helping you write the song. You could be sharing, and then they could be recording on top of your recordings, and you could be sending files back and forth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think those are kind of my reasons why, in addition to yours, but
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Good points.
Yeah.
Good
And
points.
so I guess now, man, let's talk about how it actually works. I think maybe some of our listeners may not have a great idea of what goes into a home studio setup if they're literally starting from scratch. So let's just do an overview. I think this would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Do an overview of what it actually is, what gear is involved with just the most basic home studio. Talk me through that. Let's just
Sure.
talk through some options.
Sure, totally. So let's pick a scenario. Let's say that you're a singer-songwriter, you're a guitar player,
Okay.
and you want to create some demos to listen back to yourself, and then maybe have to share with a professional studio that you intend to go re-record your songs with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're all right. So I work with a lot of musicians. Some have more elaborate setups than others. I mean, it can go as low as a voice memo on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like to what you said, it will increase your, musicality. It will help you find your sound better if you start recording yourself at a little more of a professional level, or like on the way there, right?
Right.
And like, yeah, like once you get into it, you're like, oh God, is that what I really sound like?
Yeah.
Like, yes, it is what you really sound like.
And for the record, don't be disgruntled by that, listeners. That
Yeah.
happens to every single one of us.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
I've talked about this on a previous episode, but take that as a moment to be like, all right, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
View it as, what am I going to do different next time?
Right.
Anyway.
I mean, especially if you're a singer, like a lot of people love to sing, but when they hear themselves back, they hear their voice, they're like, oh God, I hate that.
Mhm. Yeah,
And,
they do. Yeah.
it's very common. You're not alone in that. So don't worry about it. Just try to have fun with it and get it. Your goal is to get it as close to what you hear in your head out on, coming out of the speakers, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So let's take that scenario, singer-songwriter, guitar player. The basic gear that you're going to need is you're going to need a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need an interface. And for those that don't really know what an interface is, in this day and age, it's a digital box that has usually some built-in preamps in it to amplify your microphone, or you can plug your instrument directly into it if that's right for you. And then it connects to the computer usually via like USB, maybe some sort of Thunderbolt connection at this point. And it's how you get things into the computer, which then you'll need software to actually capture that. Right. Okay, so computer interface software, right? Some interfaces come with a recording software. Some do not. Finding the one that's right for you is a journey, really. I started out on Cool Edit Pro
Ooh.
way back in the day.
I know exactly what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
man.
Nice.
Yeah. And then dabbled with GarageBand a little bit, but quickly got into recording school, and Pro Tools was what we were being taught. So I got Pro Tools and really have never looked back.
Yeah.
Since then have been around and worked with some other DAWs, which is digital audio workstation.
That's right. That is the category of software we're talking about.
It is. It is the software category. A DAW, as it's commonly referred to, is a digital audio workstation, and it's basically just, like we said, the software that you work inside of. And so you got your computer, your interface, and then your software, your DAW. Beyond that, you'll need some speakers to be able to listen to. You want something more than what your computer's internal speakers are.
Yep.
You can go headphone route, and especially speaking to anyone who's out there in an apartment or townhouse or something where neighbors are close by and maybe you can't turn up very loud, headphones are going to be your friend, right? So I would recommend, even if you do have speakers, also have headphones.
Yep.
If speakers are a no-go, you can still get by with headphones.
Yep,
for
you
sure.
can.
Totally.
And there are some pros and cons to that. But let's keep working through this, and then maybe we can talk about some of that.
Yeah, totally. So then from there, you'll need some cabling, right? So you'll also need a microphone. I'm assuming that you're a singer-songwriter, so you're recording your vocal. Let's just say you're playing acoustic guitar. You can plug your acoustic guitar straight into your interface. You probably won't like the way that it sounds.
Right. Yep.
But it's
depends on your pickup
depends
system.
on your pickups. It's getting better and better. Some will get by, and that kind of goes back to your goal, right? If you're just making little demos, like if quality is not like of utmost importance, which if you're just making demos, it shouldn't be. It should be more about the song structure, and the songwriting is the most important thing. Then maybe you don't worry about it. Maybe you save a little money. You don't have more than one microphone. You have a decent microphone for your vocal, and you're good. But if you want to go a little farther, you can add a couple other mics to your setup. So let's go with the vocal mic thing. You'll need a vocal mic. You'll need an XLR cable, which is the little round one with the 3 pegs in it.
That's right.
And then that will plug into the interface. And then depending on the type of microphone, I'm assuming we'll talk about the different types, but a condenser mic would be good for vocals. It also depends on your environment, but we can get into that. And then that will need phantom power, which your interface will cover that. And then
also known as 48 volts.
48 volts, That's right. And then beyond that, I think those are all. Well, okay, so you'll need a little bit of cabling, some TRS cables to get your speakers plugged into your interface.
And let's just pause there because this is actually kind of important.
Okay.
So TRS, tip ring sleeve is what this stands for.
Yeah.
Okay. And some people who are just starting out don't realize that is different than what is commonly referred to as like an instrument cable.
Right.
So it's a quarter inch plug, which looks very similar to what we're used to seeing as an instrument cable or even a speaker cable, but it's different because it has not just a tip and a sleeve. If you look at it, it's got an extra ring on it. So it's tip, ring, sleeve, and of course, what that's doing is it's providing that ground.
Yeah.
So a TRS cable, even though it's a quarter inch cable, is actually the same thing as an XLR cable.
Yeah.
They can just be terminated as either a TRS or it can have the XLR end.
Right.
And what we're talking about is a balanced signal.
Exactly.
And so it's really important, I think, for people to understand that, hey, if you're going to go out of your interface to your speakers, that needs to be a balanced signal.
Yeah.
So it needs to either be TRS or it needs to be XLR.
Yeah.
So just wanted to point that out. That's very important.
It is very important, especially some of the starter or lower end model interfaces are most likely going to have that connection instead of an XLR connection.
Right.
And not that it's worse quality, but it's usually a space-saving thing because you're talking about a 1/4 inch size and you'll need a left and a right versus the XLR size is over probably double that
Right.
size. So it's a space saver.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll need those cables to get to your speakers. And then from there, I guess that almost covers everything. I mean, you can branch into additional microphones for your instrument or instruments. You know, we can get into the differences of what we're talking about here, but I think those are it. So let me go back through the list real quickly. So it'll be computer, interface, DAW software, microphone for your vocals, cabling. That's going to be at least one XLR cable to get the microphone into the interface. You'll need 2 TRS cables to get the interface into your speakers or vice versa. And then, did I leave anything out?
Mic stand.
Mic stand.
You'll probably
Okay,
need a mic stand.
Good. Very
That's
good.
Probably
Yep.
a good thing to have on hand, I would say.
Yep. Mic stand is important.
Headphones.
Headphones, right? If you're going that route, I would say headphones are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the basic things. If you have now all of that, let's leave the computer out of it because there's a wide range on price there.
Yep.
But all of that aside, you can probably get for less than $1,000.
I would say you probably can.
Yeah. And be in good shape and have decent things, not just bottom of the line stuff that might break on you in a year or two.
Yep.
It'll be good.
Totally. Yep. So that's it. I mean, that's kind of the simple overview. Why don't we now let's zoom in a little bit on what makes things different.
Okay.
So take each of these components and let's just talk through different types of microphones. Let's talk through different types of interfaces, different DAWs, some pros and cons there. I'll go ahead and start with interface because I think that has a huge amount of variety to it, at least on the outside. But what I like to emphasize about interfaces is it really comes down to how much I/O you need.
Yeah.
How many ins and how many outs.
Right.
So I'm just going to, and this is, I'm just picking some random examples here. One of the most common interfaces for home studio setups by far is the Scarlett Solo.
Yep.
Okay.
By
Focusrite.
Right.
It's because of a couple different things. If you just need, an input for your instrument, so just an instrument input, and then you need a mic input, it has those on it.
And then it has 2 channels, right?
2 channels. And then it has, a left and a right output and a headphone jack.
Yep.
And it's like maybe $100.
Yeah, they're not pricey.
Nope.
And they've gotten a whole lot better in quality over the years.
Yes, they really have.
They're up at the top of your starter interfaces for sure.
They truly are. Yeah. So that's an option. What separates that one from some of their higher level ones within that same Scarlett lineup is going to be I/O.
Yeah.
So the Solo is really just pretty much 2 inputs, right? And then technically multiple outputs.
Right.
If you scale that all the way up to, I believe it's the 18i20, which stands for 18 inputs, 20 outputs. That's for you could do a whole band with that if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you've got 18 inputs. They can be mic level. They can be line level. Doesn't really matter. You can send 20 different outputs, so you can run headphones to a bunch of different people in your band. The only difference between that and the Solo is its I/O.
Yeah.
Really.
Right.
And so, again, just using this one brand as an example because it's kind of a common one.
It is.
So that's really what I encourage people to think about when they're picking an interface for their home studio is, hey, how many people are you going to need to record at one time?
Yeah.
That's really kind of one of the big indicators.
Right.
Microphone wise, so we mentioned that some microphones require phantom power or 48 volts. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about different mics and why you might choose different things for your home studio setup?
Absolutely. So there's 3 main prevalent types of microphones. There are others, but we won't get too far into that right now. There's condenser mics, dynamic mics, and ribbon mics. And for, basic home studio purposes, you probably will only need condenser mic and a dynamic mic.
Right.
The differences between those, I'm just going to talk in generalities and not get down to the technical reasons why they're different. But The condenser mic is going to be, you can think of it as a more powerful microphone that's going to pick up a broader frequency range. It's going to get all of the little details. Like you, if you have it turned up enough, and you could hear yourself like scratching your leg, and it's not even close to your leg, right?
Right.
It's going to pick up a lot. It's very sensitive, right? Dynamic mic is going to be a lot more focused to just what's right in front of it. It's going to do a really good job of picking up what's in front of it. It's not going to be quite as detailed. It may not have as much like brightness in it or, airiness to it. It's not as full spectrum, but it has a very good place. These microphones that you're seeing on the video are dynamic microphones.
That's right. This SM7Bs.
SM7B. Very common mic. Also a good choice for a home studio. I mean, I would a lot of musicians I work with use this in their home studio for their vocals. It would be a great one for if you're in an apartment and you have kind of noisy neighbors, or there's a dog down the way, or you might be able to get by in a decent environment with just using this to do your recordings while something else is going on, and it may not pick it up, right? Condenser mic, you're probably going to hear the dog, right? Or the truck outside or something.
You'll
like
hear
that.
it all.
You hear it all. For good or for bad, right?
Right.
So those are kind of the three different types. I would recommend a decent condenser mic. So there's lots of options. It's a huge range on price on that and quality, but you can get a solid one to start with would be like a Rode NT4. Those are great. Any of the NT series ones are a good place to go. So there's also two different types. I guess I should roll it back a little bit. There's two different types of condenser mics. There's a large diaphragm and a small diaphragm. For vocals, you're most likely going to want a large diaphragm, and the Rode mic is that. The small diaphragms are good for if you get a little farther into this and you want to try to expand your sound a little bit. If you're the acoustic guitar player, they sound really nice on acoustic guitar.
They sure do.
Yeah. So I would recommend that for that. Dynamic microphones, very popular. Your 57, your 58, your Shure microphones. Also, these are Shures as well.
Yep.
Those are going to be good. Same type of scenario. If you need, to focus on your sound and not pick other things up, those are going to be good for that. Yeah. If you play electric guitar, Shure 57, you can toss that on your cabinet and record your electric guitar.
Yeah, exactly. Or like a Sennheiser, what is it, the E609?
Yeah, E609 is a great one.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Good dynamic mic choice.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So yeah, those are some microphone options. There is a little component in between the interface and the microphone that maybe we haven't talked about, and it's because it's not commonly needed or wanted necessarily in a home studio setup, but it does take your microphone to the next level, and that would be a preamp. So Trent, you mentioned earlier how a lot of these interfaces have built-in preamps.
Yes.
But there are other standalone preamps that you can buy that basically will take your mic signal and will put gain like with that mic signal and then send it to an interface. Why would maybe somebody want to consider doing something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it will amplify your mic sound to get it into your interface at a decent level so that you can hear it back correctly, right?
Right.
Okay, so reasons being, if you're looking for a way to step up quality, I think investing in a better outboard or external preamp than what comes in your interface is a good path to take. There are, again, there's a ton of options on everything that we're talking about right now.
So true.
Yeah, you can really get lost, but the names that we're saying are basically bestsellers, and they will steer you in the right direction. So if you get overwhelmed, you will not go wrong with any of the things that we're just saying.
Right.
You'll be just fine. So I would say quality, and then color is another thing. So the sound, and when we say color, you can kind of think of it as like a different tone. If you're a guitar player, it's almost like a different amp. Like that's a very good, I mean, preamp and amp is a very good relationship right there.
Oh yeah.
One for a microphone, one for a guitar, but they have different sounds. And you can get one that's a little more warm. You can have one that's very transparent and clear. You can have one that has some airy brightness to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And yeah, I mean, there's just so many. There's so many of them too. I mean, so many different options.
Yeah.
I would say though, before, since we're really kind of living in this home studio realm, before you get to the preamp side of things, because it is a financial investment.
It is.
I mean, they're expensive. I would say just get real comfortable with whatever you start with.
Right, with the basics.
Yeah. And this goes back to what, I think we've talked a lot about already, which is just know your gear.
Yeah.
Know what you already have, know how to use it, know how to get the best sound quality possible out of it. And then once you're there, then maybe start thinking about, okay, what's like the next step?
Right.
And adding a preamp would be one of those next steps.
Exactly.
So.
That would be changing out your interface to maybe a higher quality interface. And by quality, we mean it probably comes with a little higher quality preamps. It also has a better analog to digital conversion or digital to analog conversion, or commonly referred to as A to D or D to A. And basically what that means is that it's taking the analog signal, your microphone that's running down the XLR cable, and when it gets into the interface, is converting it to digital, which then it sends out of the USB cable into the computer to be recorded in the DAW. And those conversions can make a big difference on the quality that you're getting. And if you were to line up several different interfaces and use the same microphone setup in the same room, you could probably hear a little bit of a difference, I would say.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would definitely think so.
Yeah. So that's one way to look at an upgrade if you need to. The microphone is probably one of the bigger upgrades as well.
Yeah, without a doubt.
You can jump to a higher class condenser microphone. There's, like AKG 414 will get you a very long way. You can use it on vocals. You could use it on your guitar cabinet. You could use it on your acoustic guitar.
Yep.
Lots of different options there. Shure KSM 44, also a good one, not totally breaking the bank, but it would be a good next step up. Yeah, there's lots of different options.
There really are, man.
So there's a lot of different, microphones out there, preamps, interfaces out there. Let's but we're gonna spend most of our time talking about the basics. Let's talk about DAWs.
Yes.
This one is very important because this is basically what you're going to be constantly interacting with. The software that you choose is it doesn't matter that much. Let's be clear. You can achieve the same goal with any of them, but whichever one kind of like fits for your workflow is important, right?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So you've already said what your first DAW was.
I did, yes.
I'll tell you what my first one was.
Please.
Fruity Loops.
Oh, nice.
Back when Fruity Loops was totally free
Yes.
and just,
Yes.
I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, why would I buy something that I can basically just get for free? And so I started in Fruity Loops.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, I quickly moved on from Fruity Loops.
Fruity Loops turned into FL Studios.
It did.
Right? Okay, so which is still around today.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a paid product now. Like,
Yeah. It was popular.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. It still is among some genres, and there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
Like, nothing at all if it works for you. Here's what we're going to do, I think. Let's approach it this way.
Okay.
Let's just name a few of them.
Let's do it.
And then we can kind of go through
Pros and cons.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to start at the top of, this is in no particular order.
Sure.
We got Pro Tools.
Yep.
We got Logic. We got Ableton. We've got Reaper. We've got Cubase. I guess we can put GarageBand in there.
Might as well. I think it's good for this scenario to throw GarageBand in there.
GarageBand is in there, I think.
Yep.
FL Studios, we've already talked about.
Yep. Nuendo.
Yep.
That's
a
lot of them. Yeah.
That's a lot of them.
That's a lot of them.
There's a whole lot of them in there. And there's Audacity, technically.
Audacity, yeah.
Even though
that's right.
it's kind of its own thing.
Yeah, and you said Ableton, right?
I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ableton for sure.
Ableton
popular.
Live.
Yeah. So of those, the two most popular are Pro Tools and Logic.
Mm-hmm.
And Pro Tools is its own brand that is from Avid Designs.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be called DigiDesign back in the day.
Back in the day.
DigiDesign. Got
DigiDesign.
bought out by Avid. And then Logic is made by Apple,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And, some may view as the better GarageBand, right? Because GarageBand is also made by Apple.
It is.
And comes free with every Mac.
It does.
So
which is a huge selling point.
Which is a very huge selling point, especially if you're just getting started into this. If you already have a Mac, then, hey, you already have a DAW, right?
You sure
then
do.
All you need is your interface and all the other things. So that could be a good way to go, especially if you're on a budget and you're not, you don't have a whole lot to invest, and there's nothing wrong with GarageBand, really. It'll get you going.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if I were to break it down, so let's just talk about, I'll tell you my preference, and then I'd love to hear your preference on some of this.
Great.
So full disclosure, I've talked about this before. I'm a Logic guy. So I live and breathe in Logic. That's where I spend my time. And I'll tell you why. If I wasn't in Logic, I would be in Pro Tools. The reason I'm in Logic is because you pay $199 one time, and you have it forever.
Yeah. That's
and
nice.
That's a huge selling point for me. I think that's one of the reasons it's become more popular. It used to be truly on a different level entirely than Pro Tools. But they keep doing all these updates, and now I work in both. I have yet to find anything in Pro Tools that Logic doesn't also have a version of at this point.
Right.
There are maybe a handful of exceptions, but price point wise, I'm just like, hey, Logic for me is it.
It beats it.
I know it like the back of my hand at this point. I've been working in it like 10 years. Pro Tools, though, I will say this, from an editing standpoint, you can do things a lot quicker sometimes.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the big selling point of Pro Tools is very quick editing. With Logic, I always feel like I'm having to find a little bit of a workaround to get it to do exactly what I want it to do, especially when it comes to editing. Editing in Pro Tools is like,
it's fast.
and you're done.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the same place in Logic just because I know these kind of like shortcuts, and I have some third-party plugins that help me do things like really quickly. And that's kind of the trade-off, is if you're going to work in Logic, I personally feel like you have to spend the time learning some of that and customizing your workflow a little bit to make it as quick as Pro Tools. But Pro Tools, I mean, for years and years and years, it was king. And I think it really still is king. But Logic, I'm telling you, it is right up there at this point, I think.
Absolutely. I think you're totally right. And full disclosure on my end, I'm a Pro Tools guy.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, that was what they were teaching when I went to recording engineering school. And so ever since then, I got my copy of Pro Tools and have never really looked back. I've just continued on with it. Probably have 15 plus years of experience with it. In fact, a certified Pro Tools operator.
Nice.
So I know it like the back of my hand as well, and I love it. It's it does have some downfalls, but it has a ton of pros. And like you said, it has been and probably still is the king of DAWs. And it's one of those things, especially depending on how deep into, I know we're just talking about home studio right now, but this entire podcast, the audio path, is about your journey in the music industry and audio. And so if you get farther down the road and this becomes a career for you, you will most likely be interacting with other people that are using Pro Tools. And if you're using the same software as they are, then there's a lot of pluses on that.
Yeah,
right. And so when you run into working with other studios and you're using different software, there's some drawbacks.
There is. Yeah.
Nothing that can't be worked around because it happens every day. But anyway, that's just something to think about. Pro Tools is the most used, I would say.
Yeah.
Not by much. So John's right. I mean, they're neck and neck. Like if we had to put it in percentage and I had to take a guess, I probably would say that it's like a 60-40 kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's about there, I would say.
Yeah. So Pro Tools being a little bit more. But Pro Tools is great with editing. Now, John brought up the cost. Pro Tools does have varying levels.
Mm-hmm.
There are different tiers of its software, and features kind of unlock as you go up, as you would expect, right? The basic software, I think it's Pro Tools Studio or Starter or something
I feel
like
like they've
that.
changed the names recently,
They
so I
have,
can't remember.
yeah, they have been changing the names,
Mhm.
but if you search it on Sweetwater or just on Google, you'll find, you can find all the different ones. The
Right.
most basic one is around that same price, I want to say. It's
Mhm.
around the $200 mark. And this is key. Luckily, if you're just getting started into this, you're entering into your options at a good time, because a couple years ago, Pro Tools switched from a perpetual license, which is what John was saying, which basically you buy it once and you own it and you can use it, eternally,
Mhm.
to a subscription model.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And a lot of the software companies were trying to do that. Obviously, with the rise of streaming services, the subscriptions are really raking in a lot of money for people. And the DAW audio guys jumped in on that too.
They sure did.
They sure did. Looking at you, Waves.
Looking at you, Waves. We're gonna keep looking
Come
at you.
on, man. Get it together. So now they got so much backlash from doing that, because they for a long time, like, they were one of the first DAWs out there, and they were never that way. And when they switched to that, people that had been using them for decades
Mhm.
were pissed.
And they jumped to Logic.
They did. They moved, and that's probably why the market share of Logic caught
Went
up
way
with Pro
up.
Tools. Yeah,
Mhm.
totally. And so that was a bad move on their part. I mean, financially, I don't know how it really worked out for them, but I think they got so much backlash from that they eventually went back and
Yeah.
they swapped it. Now, I think what it is now is it's optional.
Right.
You can buy the perpetual license, which is what I would recommend if you're going to be doing this for more than a year. If this is
Mhm.
not just like a one-off, I need this for some reason time, but I don't really do this a lot type of situation, then don't do the subscription. Just get the software, own it, and ride.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. And now, and I could be wrong on this, but if I remember correctly, even if you get a perpetual license with Pro Tools, you still have to pay for upgrades.
That's a good point. Yes, they have a upgrade subscription.
Mhm.
That's a yearly thing, and you can pay to have that. And then any update that comes out throughout that while your subscription is active is free.
Right.
So,
Which again, with Logic, I mean, I paid $199
and you can still get all
10
the
years ago,
updates.
and they just pushed me these great updates.
Yeah, that's nice.
So, I mean, I'm just saying.
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, that's a pro. That's a pro for them, a con for Pro Tools. But little caveat, I mean, I've been using Pro Tools, like I said, for like 15 years, and I've gone through a lot of versions and iterations, and I have paid for those updates along the way. But I will say that you can ride on a version without an update for a long time.
Right.
I mean, I've ridden on one version for closer to 10 years.
Mhm.
It was just hitting right, and it was doing it. It was like, I think the 2018 model. Okay, it wasn't quite 10 years, but I rode it for a long time until 2023, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if Pro Tools tickles your fancy because of all of the nice editing situations, do your research, but maybe don't let that totally deter you.
Right.
It can still be for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say this though, regardless of, well, this is a two-handed comment.
Yeah.
One of them is whatever DAW you stick with, it's a long-term commitment, like whichever one you choose now.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because when you're in, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're, producing music, like, you're creating on the fly, whether you're mixing, mastering, whatever you're doing, speed's the name of the game. You need to be so familiar with your DAW that you know exactly where things are and you can just reach for them and keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it really interrupts the creative flow. And it's just like, we've talked a lot about how if you're an instrumentalist, you need to know your instrument. You need to be one with that instrument. It's the same way as an engineer with whatever DAW you're working within. You need to know it so that you can do things quickly and you're not kind of stunting your process. So that's one side of it is, hey, pick a DAW and just stick with it. So do your research on the front end. The other side of it, though, that I think is really important is down the road, if you're going to be a professional in this industry, you need to be familiar with multiple DAWs. So that's just a down the road kind of a comment. So, for example, of today, Trent, you and I were sitting there, we were working on a session together in Pro Tools.
That's right.
And, I know how to do things in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Even though you are by far way better at it.
Well,
I know how to do what I need to do
totally
in it.
You're moving around just fine.
And so, like that's kind of important. I've found is if you're going to choose a DAW that maybe isn't Pro Tools, it's a good idea to know Pro Tools a little bit here and there. If you're going to be in studios, it's kind of one of those, I call it being like multilingual. It's kind of like you need to know, just like, as a live engineer also, I need to know a lot of different sound consoles. It's the same kind of thing. I can have a primary, and I do, but I also need to be aware of what else is out there.
Right.
And know how to comfortably get around it and work with it.
Right, because this doesn't totally pertain to this episode, but if you're trying to get a gig, you need to know, if you know multiple different types, that's more gig options for you to be able to get.
That's
right?
exactly it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I need to get a little bit better on my Logic knowledge. I've been around it a decent amount, but I'm probably like as proficient as John is in Pro Tools being his secondary, I'm probably not quite as proficient in Logic as my secondary. And it just takes time.
It does.
Because also you got to keep in mind, like, I've been using Pro Tools for 15 plus years. I'm a certified operator, but I'm still learning new things about Pro Tools weekly, for sure. A new shortcut, a new faster way to do things. Some of that's because of the updates come along and they introduce new things, and there's no way, you just got to continually keep up. But some of those things have been in there for, 10 years, and I just didn't know it.
Right.
Until you do.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's a lot to learn.
Yep, there is. The last one I think we probably should touch on is probably Ableton, because I would say that's probably the third most used.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very comfortable in Ableton. I have a lot of experience in Ableton. So let me talk to that just a little bit.
Yeah, do it.
I think Ableton Live is a phenomenal DAW. I think it's for a very specific purpose, though, and that specific purpose is live playback. You can record in it, and a lot of people do. They have made some updates along the way. I started using Ableton Live when it was like on version 7 or something like that, and it truly just didn't have... it hardly had any editing features, really.
Yeah.
It was for live playback. It was for that specific purpose. Now, I think it was around Live 10 or 11 that they started introducing like comping, for example, where you can, do punch-ins and like, choose different takes and things. And that was game changing because they for 10 iterations or whatever, they didn't have comping, So they've become much more recording DAW friendly.
Yeah.
But I love Ableton because as a keys player, I can go in and I can set up like all of my different patches. I can do follow actions, and I can have it like sync up with a click track, and I can just have it switch patches depending on which part of the song we're in and things like that.
Right.
There's no other DAW that gives you that amount of flexibility. It's pretty incredible.
It's good for songwriting, yeah.
It's really good for songwriting. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal for that. If you're the type of person that likes working with a ton of different samples, the session view in Ableton can be really fun and really flexible. You hit record and you're just punching stuff in, seeing what works different places. If you're an EDM person, Ableton is probably where you're going to live.
Yeah. Yeah. If you like electronic music, it's the one.
Yeah,
for that.
It really is. Yeah. And then it has two different views. The other one, of course, is arrangement view. An arrangement view is very similar to, a Pro Tools or a Logic DAW, where you're seeing on a timeline, you're seeing your different tracks come in, and you can record them and do almost all the same stuff. There's automation lanes in there, just like in Logic and in Pro Tools. So Ableton is really, really great. I just think from a pure recording standpoint, it may not be the choice.
Right.
If you are in a specific genre that you know these people who are making professional level music in my genre live there and they work within this, maybe go for it.
Yeah.
EDM would be one of those.
Yep.
Hip hop is actually pretty common with that
Yeah.
as well.
True.
If you're a MIDI person, I mean,
Yeah.
its MIDI options are really great.
It's good.
I mean,
yeah.
Pro Tools has a really great MIDI options too. That's a con of Logic. Logic's MIDI is not great. I'm just
Right.
going to throw that out there.
Right.
Like,
Right.
Keep working on it, Apple.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
anyway, so
Yeah. If you're a keyboard player, then and that's your primary instrument, then I would look into Ableton.
Totally.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Every time I play live, man, I'm playing with Ableton.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I'm playing keys.
Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
cool. Let's talk about one more thing, and I think we've done a lot
pretty
here.
much covered
But
it.
one thing I do want to talk about though with your home studio setup is, and this is a deep topic, so we can't really get that far into it. But if you're going the speakers route, so we talked earlier about like speakers versus headphones. If you're going the speakers route, you need to think about your room. And I think we can't really move on from this broad overview
Yes.
without talking about, if you just throw some speakers up in a room, you're not going to have an accurate listening environment,
No,
right?
you're not.
And we will talk about this much more later, but what we're really honing in on here is having an acoustically neutral listening position,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
What we mean by that is a position in your room where if you're sitting in front of your speakers, where you're sitting is acoustically neutral, meaning if you were to like play pink noise back, you would be hearing every single frequency completely flat across the board.
Right.
That's kind of the goal with with building a studio of any kind, is to have an acoustically neutral listening position.
Yeah. Very easier said than done.
No doubt.
It is not an easy task. I mean, I know from personal experiences, this is my third studio that I have built set up. And the first two, I did all myself and did all the acoustics and the treatments that I thought I needed. And you do the best you can. Doing nothing is not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, try something. I mean, even if you don't, like, there's analyzers out there, and I know that sounds like a little daunting, especially if we're just talking about a home studio, but you can get into trying to figure out, where to put something and what's best and how much and all of that. And then, of course, where to put the speakers, where to put your desk. Like, there's a lot of information out there, and we can try to get into this maybe in a separate episode, but doing something is going to be better than nothing. Even if you just put some absorptive material, and what we mean by that is like even a blanket actually, works for something to absorb sound on the walls. The ceiling is important. The floors, everything in the room is important, even down to the doors and the windows. And so putting stuff like that, if you want like some legitimate acoustics, there are like prefabricated ones you can buy. A company called Acoustimac sells really high quality ones for a very decent price. In fact, I use some in my studio now. A lot of the ones like what you're seeing in the back of this are custom built for this studio, for this room. This studio, my third studio, I hired an acoustic designer to design the studio and to do it the right way. And it's great. It's still not perfect because that doesn't really exist. Like, it is, every room is going to be a little different. And it depends on the size of the room, the length of the walls, the length of the ceiling. Like, there's a lot of things in play. So even if it's, been designed like with a lot of thought, it's still gonna maybe fall short in some areas. And I think where I'm going with that is an easy way around all of this is this new technology or newer technology called room correction software. And basically, you can analyze your room with a reference microphone. It will send out signals through your speakers, and it will build a EQ curve of what it is detecting is basically what's being amplified and then what is falling short.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will invert that EQ to correct to a flat listening position.
Right.
I recommend those, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
SonarWorks is probably the leader in that realm. Some interfaces come with it.
They do.
I think now, yeah.
Yep.
So that could be a way to go. It's a little complicated. You definitely need to get reading on the manual to get in on that, but it could be a way if you're on a budget and you can't invest in acoustics, although I would recommend investing in acoustics before even looking into a better microphone or a better preamp, like what we were saying. Acoustics are way more important than that.
I totally agree. Yeah. And, I use SonarWorks in my studio as well.
Yep.
You mentioned, one acoustic panel company. The one that I used was GIK, GIK Acoustics. I think they're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And one thing I loved about them is that for free, GIK, literally, there's a button on their website that says get free advice.
Nice.
And you can take measurements of your room. You can send them in, and they'll be like, hey, here's what I would do in this room. Like you're talking with an actual human being. Like, on a Zoom call. They're like, here's what I would do in this room treatment-wise. I'd put maybe, you've got a reflection point here. I would put a panel there. You've got another reflection point here. I'd put a panel there. They're going to say, like we would maybe do some absorption and, reflection at the same time.
Nice.
GIK is great. And even if you don't buy product from them, like it's literally just free advice, which is awesome.
That's major. Yeah.
It's huge.
That's awesome.
And I'm also, here's what I would say. Even though I use the SonarWorks, EQ correction, I'm like, as a acoustics nerd, I don't think we can move on or finalize this without saying, you can't EQ out room reflection.
Yeah.
You can't.
Right.
You need to spend the money and the time on good room treatment. Mm-hmm. And then basically think about it this way. It's similar to how in a live environment, people are always like, oh yeah, well, we got our PA tuned. There's a difference between tuning your PA and tuning your room.
Oh yeah.
Just like there's a difference between in a studio setting, tuning your room and then tuning your monitors.
Yes.
And to me, the EQ correction is basically just a monitor tuning.
Yes.
You've got to get it pretty close in the actual room in order for those to work correctly. Like if you've got like a room mode going on, which we don't really need to get into right now, but like basically if you've got this low end buildup that's like sitting exactly in your listening position in your room and it's boosting, say like 80 hertz by like 10 decibels or whatever, like you can't really EQ that out.
Right.
That's a room issue and you need to solve that room issue first.
Yes, absolutely. And to that same point, like you can't take care of everything. And in the same way on the acoustics, like I had this room custom built and it is a very nice room and they did a fantastic job. These acoustic panels that you're seeing in the back are almost 3 feet thick and like no stone was left unturned in this place. But we really went all out. But I still use room correction software because nothing is perfect.
Right.
And everything plays a factor. And I think one of the main reasons why I needed the software was my desk. My speakers, the sound bounces off of my desk and hits the listening position in a way that amplifies, or no, in my case, it dips some of the low end out.
Creates a phase issue.
It creates a phase issue, yeah. And that's a hard thing to overcome because the furniture and the things that you choose to put in the room affect the sound, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you change those things, your sound might change, right? Even this couch over here is doing some work to absorb some sound, right? So
totally.
So all good things to consider, right?
Yep, they really are. Bro, I kind of want to do I want to do some measurements in your room now.
Yeah.
I want to check it out.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We totally can.
Anyway, cool. Well, We just successfully dove down a little bit of the deep rabbit hole that is room treatment.
We did, but it's important for a home studio setup. Like, if you don't get into if you do what John recommended with GIK, then I would say that's a good bare minimum, and it won't cost you anything.
Right.
And then from there, see what they say, see what you need. Of course, you got to balance that with your budget and see what you can afford. But doing something is better than nothing. And it'll get you that much farther. Because what you'll do is when you're trying to chase your sound in your recording, you'll end up fighting against your room. And that will waste a lot of time for you.
Yeah, it will.
And so if you can get your room neutral, then you'll have that much more of an opportunity to get the sound that you want.
Yeah. And I just really want to reemphasize, I think room treatment is the place to spend the money on the front end.
Yes, that's a good point.
I just really do.
Yeah.
And for reference, I don't mind telling listeners, when I did my home studio, which is a room that's like, I want to say my room is like 15 by 10 or something like that. Smaller listening room. I was able to treat that whole room with absorption and some absorption reflection panels. I think I have a total of 15 panels, and it cost me probably $2,600.
Yeah.
Like,
and John's got a really nice room now.
Yeah. And it's totally been worth the money.
Yeah.
So before you start thinking about like, oh, do I go buy this really nice microphone? Think about your room.
Yeah.
Just think about your room first.
Yeah. You got to get all those basics that we mentioned in the front of the episode.
Right.
But before you start doing any equipment upgrades, look at the room.
Yep. Check the room out. So. Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot then.
Yeah, I think so too. That should be pretty much everything you need to get going on your basic home studio setup, or at least get the gears turning and, get you down that path, right?
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Down the path.
That's right.
So, Trent, what are you working on this week?
Yeah, man. So this is, it's been a good week. This week currently is a lot of mixing. I've been doing a whole lot of tracking over the past couple weeks. So now it's time to put it all together, right?
The fun part.
Yeah, exactly. The fun part. I love that part. I'm still working on mixes for Timmy Sherrill, which I mentioned, the singer-songwriter who I really like his lyrics. Been enjoying that. And then working on a couple other little small projects. A one-off kind of single for a guy named Fred Royal for the end of a documentary that was filmed here in Wilmington about Minnie Evans, an artist from, I want to say, back in the 60s or 70s. Kind of a documentary about her life. And so his song is in the credits of that documentary.
Amazing.
So that's been kind of cool. What about you, John?
That's super cool.
What are you into?
Man, I'm kind of in live mode right now. It is, smack dab in the middle of like conference and event season. So I was mixing a press conference on Monday, which was kind of cool. I don't do a lot of those, so it was kind of something kind of unique and different.
Nice.
And that was a lot of fun. Got back home later on Monday, and today we're filming on a Wednesday, and I leave tomorrow for just like a really kind of cooler, in my opinion, like conference. So it's a 5-day conference. I'm mixing for that one, and it's going to be interesting. It's a what is that one? It's like a North Carolina Tourists Association, like their big annual conference that they do every year. So
cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
going in there with a full crew, a crew I've been working with more, and full scale AV, just really high finish, making it look and sound just like really clean. That's kind of the name of the game with this kind of thing. So
Nice.
So that'll keep me busy for a little bit.
Very
So
cool.
that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. Well, that's a good place for us to end it. Thank you guys for listening. If you've liked the content, please, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, leave us a comment. We would love to talk to you. That's what this whole podcast is all about, is, trying to build a community of, like-minded individuals that are on a path or journey in audio and the music industry on any different, side of things. So hit us up, and until next time,
Steady the path.
steady the path.